get started with defensive coordinator Andrew Thacker. If you could, please grab a microphone to ask a question. We'll go ahead and start with Rod.
Andrew, what was your evaluation of the scrimmage last Saturday? Did you see anything that you really liked out there?
Yeah. So I guess kind of first answer I'll give you is the circumstances of scrimmage 2 were a little bit different. First scrimmage was a little more situational. We went in a little more vanilla package. Our goal in scrimmage 1 was to evaluate who could best do their assignments and who could best tackle. So we were able to do that. I think one of the biggest observations from scrimmage 1 was tackling. It was the first time we had done it, and we needed to improve that. So we went into the second scrimmage. Coach let us play a little more, just kind of put the ball down and open up the playbook a little bit. So we were able to call more, to have more complexity to the defense. So that was a little more fun for the guys, certainly more fun for me to call the game. Still, we focused on technique, fundamentals. We focused on tackling. We thought there was a big improvement there. But I would say the biggest improvement we made from scrimmage 1 from scrimmage 2 was the way that we handled adversity. Chip did an unbelievable job on the first drive. He had a 3-play drive, and they scored on us first drive. After that moment, I thought we handled it well and put together a string of stops and some third down stops and stayed composed in that situation. A couple other tangible things I was pleased with. I was pleased with the tackling from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, and I was pleased with the situational football, namely the third downs. We were at a high percentage that day. So the guys' energy was very good. There was good motivation, good energy, good responses on the sideline from the defensive leadership, and we got better that day.
Yeah, you guys love your ATL charts and all that stuff. What's the number like right now, maybe of guys you feel comfortable with on the defensive side of the ball putting in a game at this moment?
I'm going to try not to be gray with your question because there's not a definitive answer to it. Coach has kind of addressed the team this way, and I think he's very specific about the ATL and having guys ready and us having the green light as coaches to go play the players in green light. But I think he's given a very realistic idea of the way that we want to manage the depth chart this year, that it's going to be more competitive, that we want guys that we truly trust on the field to play longer. So in the past where we've played, maybe we've come in here after a game and said we've played 25 to almost 30 defensive players. I'm not sure if that's going to be the model this year. We feel like we've got enough older, mature guys that can handle the workload. I'll give you an example, Jalen King, Charlie Thomas, and Ace Ely, that we really want those guys to carry a bigger load as opposed to just subbing for the purpose of subbing. As always, if the play count gets high, we have to rely on depth. The defensive line always has more rotations than anybody else. So I don't have a hard number for you, and we haven't had that conversation yet. We have had conversations after scrimmage 1 and scrimmage 2. We've had more of a travel list conversation, like, hey, these guys are going to be on the travel list, so let's start to build our special teams roster off of that. But we haven't had it. We're still allowing guys to have camp mode and still fight for position battles as far as what an ATL 1, 2, 3 depth chart looks like, if that's a fair answer.
Hey, whether it's in scrimmages or whether it's just the whole preseason, is there anyone who's really stood out to you and impressed you?
Man, I respect the questions. I hate those questions because anyone that I speak positively about, right, that does a disservice to so many guys that are doing a great job. I'll take an easy route to start. The older guys that we have, I just mentioned some, Jalen King, Charlie Thomas, Ace Ely. I think the consistency that they come with every single day, the leadership that they provide off the field, we hold those guys to a high standard, but they make coaching easier. And then I'll bite on your question a little bit. I'll give you some guys that I think are most improved within a camp setting. I'm afraid to give him a compliment, but I love him to death. I think David Turner's doing a great job with Akilo Stone. He's kind of a rotational defensive tackle that's strung together a couple of really good practices. I'm very proud of him. I don't want to do him a disservice and let him hear this, but I'm proud of his. And then I'll give you one young guy that of the freshman class that's ahead of the curve in his maturity is Clayton Powell Lee. So those are kind of some outlier guys, and then trying to always be fair to the older guys. And there's plenty more that I'm going to be remiss with, but I'll answer your question that way if that's fair.
Of course, I asked one question.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew, I think the last time you were here, you were talking about the secondary, and one person you mentioned was Miles Brooks, and it looks like he may be pushing for a spot in the line. Can you just describe just kind of what you've seen from him and where he stands?
So LaMiles is coming off a shoulder surgery. So we didn't have LaMiles in spring practice. We always knew that he had a serious approach, that he's got high-end intangibles that we truly trust. So we weren't sure if we were going to play him at one of the three spots in the back-end secondary, the strong safety, the free safety, the nickel. So we explored a little bit in the summer, and we felt he was best at the strong safety position right now. So him and Derek Allen, they've been in a great battle, and it's been a very competitive battle between those two. And to Derek Allen's credit and Miles Brooks' credit, it has not been a contentious battle. I think they're not falling into the trap of comparing themselves to each other, and they're going out there and trying to make each other better. So Coach Till, for example, today, every single time we went to a new situational period, those guys just rotated with ones and twos. If we were to go into a game right now, those guys will still battle it out who gets the first snap, but those guys would have even reps right now, and whoever's the hot hand, we would play those guys. But very pleased with LaMiles, especially not having a sample size of spring ball from him.
Rod?
Yesterday, Coach talked a little bit about Noah Collins. What do you see his role? He mentioned, he could play, rush end, maybe drop back, a little linebacker, that type of thing.
So really proud of Coach Knight and all the work that he's done with Noah. Noah is one of those things coming into the fall camp. Every conversation we had, like, Noah may be the most talented one we've got, and that's no disservice to anybody else. Just as far as just true twitch, true flexibility, just some natural pass rushing things, just natural power. Like, hey man, if this kid comes on, like he's the most talented one long term, and I feel like the light has come on. I think Coach Knight's done a great job coaching on the details and giving him confidence, and kind of in the same way where Kyle Kennard, Kevin Harris, and Noah Collins are all kind of in a competition battle. They've done a great job of building each other up and being competitive about it. If we were to go out tomorrow, I think Kyle and Noah would be very competitive with those reps right now. We would trust both of those guys in the game right now. So really, really pleased with Noah Collins, who's ultimately in his redshirt freshman year right now.
Kelly?
We were talking to Miles Sims yesterday, and he mentioned that you guys have gotten away from just playing straight field and boundary and trying to have some multiplicity there. Do you feel like maybe like Kenyatta, is that the third guy? Is that kind of where the depth's heading? Because it seems like Miles and Zamari are sort of your two veteran guys.
Yeah.
How are you developing depth there?
Yeah, I would say we've consistently kept Miles Sims and Zamari Walton with that first group. Another one that I want to make sure that I bring to light is Kenan Johnson. We very much so trust Kenan Johnson and feel like he's playing at a high level. He took some reps rotationally with the ones as well today. And there's a really good battle for that next corner spot. It really is. I think you mentioned Kenyatta. Kenyatta's done a great job with 50-50 balls, so specifically on fades to back shoulders that we get a lot of. He's played quite a bit of press technique, so he gets in a lot of competitive situations. I think he's won a lot of those battles, so we're very proud of that one. Just some other young guys that we brought into the program, and Amari Harvey and Eric Reed to bring in for competition. Those guys have improved and are battling for that spot as well. That would be one of those spots to where, I'm not trying to be vague. Literally, we're still trying to get somebody to really figure out who we would rotate as the fourth and the fifth guy at cornerback right now, and that thing's still got to clear itself out.
Time for a couple more for Coach Thacker. Ken?
I'll preface this by saying this probably isn't your favorite memory from your time in Philadelphia, but your first game, you faced Chip at Notre Dame that didn't go well. What do you remember about that game?
Yeah.
Kind of what does it say about what you have?
So that was our that was a long time ago. That was I was the linebackers coach at the time. Was not the defense coordinator calling plays or anything. They had I remember the offensive line. That's my memory from it. What's his name? What's the dude that plays for the Colts? Quentin, whatever his name is. Anybody help me out there?
Nelson.
Quentin Nelson. That's what I remember from that game. That was our very first game at Temple. I was the linebackers coach. They got after us. Chip is an unbelievable play caller. It's been fun. I hope this is not a pretentious comment, but in an iron sharpened iron way, I love competing against him every single day. I think the complexity to his offense, I think how he's able to really, really not give lip service to personnel, but how he uses personnel. I think it's as NFL style as it gets. He gets the best players on the field. Doesn't worry about tight ends, doesn't worry about wide receivers, doesn't worry about running backs. Whoever he feels like he can create a play for, he creates. And And then for us defensively, we feel like now going into the Clemson game, we've faced almost every personnel, almost every formation, almost every shift in motion, and almost every adjustment. So in the way that he's made us better in that way, I can't compliment enough. And then I think there's been a lot of just comments about how confident they feel about Jeff having a good feel and good idea of the offense. So I don't have anything as the linebacker coach at Temple in our first game there when they were pretty overwhelmingly good. I'm not sure if that was an underhanded jab or not, but if you want me to answer Chip and just kind of how much respect I have for him and his play calling, he's top end. I'm very glad he's here.
Anything else? Kelly? We'll finish up with one for Kelly.
When you look back at last year, you guys showed sort of the high-end potential in the Clemson-Carolina games. What do you have to do to get the team to perform like that on a regular basis? Consistency's obviously been inconsistent.
Sure.
Just, kind of what do you do as a play caller, as a coach to get that? Because they've seen what they can do, and the guys have talked about that, but just to get them to perform that way every week.
I think, number one, you enter the season with confidence. I think optimism is a real thing. I don't think it guarantees a thing. Optimism guarantees absolutely nothing. But I think our guys will go in with optimism. I think they'll go in with positive energy, and we'll start from that standpoint. At that point, we talk about circumstances and how we respond to circumstances. Not only do we talk about the hard times, which we've had some hard times here, and how we respond to those things, but more so now in fall camp, we've got some maturity about guys handling success, even within the framework of, Rod asked about a scrimmage on Saturday where we felt like we had a little momentum on defense. It's great to ride the wave of momentum and have shared joy with your teammates, but really how to respond to both adversity and how to respond to a little bit of positivity too, and to ride those waves. To your point, we had a little, kind of a little arc of the season of momentum on defense. You mentioned the Clemson and the North Carolina game that I was very proud of the product we were putting out of there, but we didn't sustain. So we've asked a lot of questions of me personally, of us as a staff, and then for us as a unit, why is that? How do we teach them? How do we not just react in those moments, and how do we teach them ahead of time to be prepared for those things? So we talk a lot of intangible things as we go to our unit meetings, and it's not something that we're waiting to happen for. We know that circumstances, good or bad, are going to come up, so we're trying to train those guys how to respond ahead of time.
Ken, if you want to finish this off with Coach Thacker.
You have on the roster, when you play Clemson, two guys that just came from there. Do they offer you any insight into personnel or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, so they have screenshots of all the playbooks, and they send them to us every day. So, guys, watch out. Appreciate you letting me have a little candor. I think more so than anything, just kind of stylistically, just broad things. But it happened last year as something like Kennesaw State. We had a guy that was the former quarterback walk on in the system and came up. Just little operational things. Hey man, when you throw on the tape, what do you see operation wise with the snap count and the cadence and those type things? But by no means are we out trying to do some espionage and steal playbooks or anything. It's just more operational things of how they feel like they're going to use personnel and some pre-snap things, which is helpful.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Coach Thacker.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Appreciate you. Ready to roll? Okay, we'll go ahead and start with our tight ends coach and offensive coordinator, Chip Long. We'll just open it right up for questions. Kelly, if you want to get started.
Obviously, Jeff Sims started out camp pretty hot. Just kind of what are you seeing in terms of his development and where he's at in the offense after two and a half weeks?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Jeff. He's really taken upon himself to improve his game. Like I said last time I talked to you guys, right when spring was over, from the summer, you just see a gradual guy getting better and better and better, getting more comfortable with certain guys, certain schemes, and just can't say enough. Like any quarterback, you're gonna have your good and bad days, but he's been very impressive, just running the operation, being another coach out there and gluing things together for me. It's been really nice.
Rod?
Throughout camp, Coach Key has tried a lot of different combinations on the offensive line. It seems like he's starting to zero in on what he likes and what you also like.
Right.
What are you seeing there?
We're trying to get as many guys who we think can play. I have no problem rotating offensive linemen. Some people want to try to keep the same group out there. I think that builds complacency a lot of times. So, if we can have certain groups play 40 snaps apiece, that's great. I think you just get better and better, and you build quality depth. So I'm all for it. So, we're doing that with a lot of groups, our receivers as well, running backs, guys who we can get the 40 best plays we possibly can get out of and then have someone else do it instead of just having one guy be out there for 80 and maybe struggle the last 30. So, it's working by committee with a lot of positions right now. So, it keeps a lot of guys hungered and having to perform each and every day. They want to be out there in that rotation.
Okay.
Chip, Jeff was saying, I guess it was last week, and maybe earlier at the start, just that he had kind of appreciated Chris's hard coaching on him. And I'm curious kind of what you've seen from him in that regard, and how do you feel like that's impacted Jeff's development?
I think it's been a great impact. Obviously Coach Winky's done it at the highest level, done it in college, the pros, coached at every level. So, he has that credibility with Jeff right away. And I think the relationship's been great, not just with Jeff, but the whole group. You can see improvement with everybody. So that's the number one spot. All eyes are on him in that room, and what can we do to make him comfortable and make him a successful player? That's all we think about. Our entire universe in our offensive staff room starts with a quarterback, and then we figure it out from there. So I think Jeff knows that and appreciates that, and that's why he's worked so hard, because he knows he has a group working hard for him.
Kelly?
In your tight end room, obviously you'll have guys get dinged throughout the year and stuff. Kind of what are you seeing in terms of just developing depth there and having some flexibilities with guys playing the F?
I've been very pleased. A young man, Billy Ward's really come on for me, playing winning football, consistent football, and he needed to. His time is now. P.J. Harris has done a great job for me. I expect big things out of him and Luke, and obviously Dylan has played a lot of football at this level. So, it's them just getting comfortable with me, getting comfortable with the offense, and understanding the nuances with that position. But they've all done a great job for me and worked extremely hard. But just being able to add the depth with Billy has been a nice addition for that room.
Rod?
Aside from the slot receivers, have you seen any of the wideouts that have been consistent enough to where you're saying, hey, he's the guy I need to put on the field? It seems like each day you see a different guy stepping up, in that position.
Yeah, it's kind of like with the offensive line. We're going to go with a hot hand. If I can get 3 guys in our boundary and give me 15 snaps as hard as they can go, that's what we'll do. I need an alpha to emerge in that group, and it hasn't. Probably Nate McCollum's probably been the most consistent of all of them. But it's going to be, play by committee there, and just figure it out as the game goes on, who has the hot hand. So a lot of guys are going to play, and then the ones who play the most are the ones who are being productive and making plays and not being disruptive out there. So, there's a lot of work to do there. Coach Alexander's doing a great job with what he has, but we need some guys to step up and be more consistent at that position. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Your first game at Notre Dame was against Jeff and his staff at Temple, and it went very well for you. And I'm curious, what do you remember from that day? And maybe is that at all an indication that your offense, when you guys get rolling, there won't be the kind of
I remember being really nervous because when the year before at Memphis, we could barely beat Temple, and they had a bunch of great players. I knew the defense they had. Notre Dame, they were 4-8, so being really nervous, and then remember being able to score on the second play, and probably should have just dropped the mic and left then. No, I just remember just a lot of butterflies and having no idea what to expect with the first-time quarterback as well, and but that's every season, the first game, and you just got to go play and put the guys in good position to make plays and, do what they're capable of doing, and that's my job. And then they got to go play and make some plays. So that's why it's such an exciting game and profession. But remember being really nervous that first game. There's no doubt about it.
Time for a couple more for Coach Long.
When we talked to Jeff yesterday, he mentioned that it's still a work in progress as to, who's going to be where on game day. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I'll be on the field. Coach Winky and Coach Alexander, Dale's been with me a long time, obviously, so he'll be on the field with Brent as well, and Mike Daniels will be up in the box.
Kelly?
With the running back room, you have 3 guys with real game experience and consistency. Are you trying to develop depth behind them? Do you feel comfortable rolling with those 3 guys going into the season?
No, we're always trying to trying to develop depth. You're going to need all those guys. So we need those young guys to keep coming on. You know, they're having their good and bad days. Obviously, as a freshman, school starts, they're going to struggle the first week. But, you know, you have 3 good veterans right there that have played some good football and have had a solid camp. So, you know, really excited. You know, who takes care of the ball the best is going to play most of the reps. So they all do that and take pride. So I'm excited to see those guys play.
Anything else? All right, Coach Long. thank
Everybody
you.
good?
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. I hope I didn't kind of bumped your phone. I didn't turn it off, did I? Did I turn it off?
No, you're good.
You're good?